mostly.
Hi, I'm Rick Steinauer, and on April 30th, 2024, I'm interviewing you, John Patrick
Ryan.
Bryan. I'm with the Nebraska Vietnam Vets Memorial Foundation Share Your Story project. We're doing this, and you have agreed to tell your story for the Library of Congress in Washington on the Veterans History Project and the Nebraska Vietnam Memorial Project. And if you can go ahead and just state your name again one more time for me.
John Patrick Ryan.
Thank you. Where were you born, John, Patrick?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. And what your parents' occupation at that time? Do you remember?
My dad was an electrician.
Okay.
Home house electrician.
Did your mom work?
Mainly. My mom eventually, at that time, well, when I was born, wasn't, but eventually she went to work for a photography studio.
Okay.
As a oil artist, meaning that she colored black and white or sepia photos.
Oh, okay.
And made them into color pictures.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Why the laughter?
Well, because only one of us is still alive.
Only one what?
It's called 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My older sister died when she was 40.
40?
Yeah.
Oh.
She had MS.
Oh.
And my mother also had MS, but she lived longer and stuff like that. My sister, she had MS that was debilitating and stuff like that. So.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, it's, and in a way, I guess when somebody dies and everything, it puts them out of their misery.
Well,
She was pretty miserable for a couple of years.
so you had a brother and 2 sisters?
Yeah, I got 2 brothers still.
Were either of them in the military?
One was in the military, he's in the Navy.
Was in the Navy?
Was in the Navy, and he retired from there more or less.
Okay.
My other brother never went to service and stuff like that. He was my baby brother.
Okay.
So,
And you said you were in the Army?
yes, I was in the Army. I can still reside at RA 16961.
What is that?
My service number.
Oh, you got me on that one.
RA 169661119.
How old are you now?
75.
And what your parents, siblings think about, you said you enlisted?
Yes.
What do they think about that?
They consider me something of a hero and stuff like that.
Something of what?
Something of a hero.
Of a hero?
Yeah, because I got wounded and stuff like that. So.
Okay. We'll get to that in a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Were you married when you joined the service, or?
Hell no.
Oh, how old were you when you joined?
18.
Okay. Did you hold any jobs prior to that, or were you just like high school? Or?
I just graduated from high school.
Okay.
So.
And where was this?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh. I was going to say, I turned 19 after I was in Vietnam.
Okay.
My birthday was in February, first week of February. And we were in Vietnam January 10th.
Oh, okay.
So I've been there, not quite 30 days.
Okay. How long were you in the military?
3 years.
3 years. So you were an enlister.
Yeah, I started a 3-year term.
Okay, did you leave anything, I mean, besides your family, anything real importance that you left behind when you went to the military?
Not really.
No? Why did you pick the Army? Or did it pick you?
No, it was more of a question of convenience and everything. I'd gotten in a little trouble, and so...
What kind of trouble?
If
you want to say?
A little trouble, I don't want to say.
Okay.
a little trouble and everything. So
That's right.
I was sort of given the choice of going in the service, and at the time, I only really went in the Army. Because,
When you went to the Army, where did you take basic?
Fort Leonard, Missouri,
Fort Leavenworth?
or as we put it then, Fort Lost in the Woods.
Okay.
The reason they call it Lost in the Woods is because
Lost in the woods?
Yeah, because it's in the middle of Ozark Forest and stuff like that. So
Okay.
we're lost in the woods.
How'd that go for you?
I survived it. Some of it was interesting in basic training. When I went in the service and everything, I was 5 feet 11 and a half inches tall, and I weighed 119 pounds.
Wow.
So,
Very thin.
yeah, technically I was underweight, but they said, well, it's only a pound. So they stuffed a bone on it, and no, I made a joke. I started to make a joke.
They start feeding you more?
Yeah, they started feeding me more, and of course in the Army and everything, they don't give you a whole lot of choices.
That's true.
They say, eat this.
This is your dinner, eat it.
Yeah.
When you finished basic, where did you go from there?
Basic was in Fort Leonard, then Fort Rucker, Alabama was MIS.
Fort what?
Fort Rucker, Alabama.
And you were what? What was it for?
Oh, helicopter crew chief.
Helicopter crew chief?
Yeah.
What kind of chopper?
Huey.
Huey's 21s
Yeah.
or 46s, 21s?
20s and 21.
Okay. No gunships?
Not at that time. When they sent me to Vietnam, I was supposed to be as a crew chief, to get, to be a crew chief. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after I got to Vietnam, they shipped all the Hueys out and replaced them with brand new Cobras.
Oh, with Cobras? So
Yeah.
you went from Hueys to gunships?
Yeah, except the gunships. Only people that fly the gunships is the pilot and co-pilot,
Okay.
not us.
So there was no crew chiefs?
There's no crew chief.
Well, let's stay backwards for just a second.
Yeah.
When you got to train for as a crew chief,
But,
tell me about the training.
well, I don't know. It's how to perform inspections and maintenance on the heavy helicopters and stuff like that.
Did you also? But you flew on them also. Weren't you the third person?
Nope.
No.
Like I said, 2 weeks after I got there, I was still going through orientation. I hadn't been issued weapons.
Oh, I see. Then they.
And 2 weeks after I got there, they replaced all the helicopters with Cobra.
With Cobras, and that was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Let's before you go to Vietnam. How long was the school for your crew chief school?
well, I don't know, a couple of months maybe.
Okay. And did he go into any other training or anything before that or during that?
Just basic training, and then the CMS, OS
Okay.
training. Yeah.
And then how long after you completed it did you go to Vietnam? Did you have your 30 days leave?
I had my, I think it was like a 30-day leave or something like that before.
Okay.
And then
And then where did you go in Vietnam? Where did they send you?
Canto province in the
Canto province?
southern part of Vietnam, south of Canto. Canto is the capital, and it's also the name of the
province itself.
province.
Yeah.
Where is this?
Do you remember when you arrived? The date?
January 10th,
Of what year?
1967,
Okay.
or 68.
So that was before the active fighting?
No.
No.
Do you know what the Tet Offensive was?
Oh, yes. Very
Okay.
much so.
I arrived there January 10th. The Tet Offensive started January 30th, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna have somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd been there for about 2 weeks or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're there a very brief time, and
I
they
was there for 59 days exactly, and that's when I got wounded. I was on guard duty, and I I did a stupid thing, which is the first time I'd used military weapons. So I thought I had tracer rounds in the M16. And I thought the tracer rounds were neat because you see where the bullet went, you know.
They were or they weren't tracer rounds?
They were.
That's not what you want in that situation.
No. That's why I said the stupid thing I did was I thought would be neat. Every other round would be a tracer round. Well, it's like spraying a garden hose with all automatic and everything.
And that everybody can point at.
Yeah, and it points exactly towards it starts and everything. That's how I got wounded. Was on guard duty.
At that time, you got wounded early?
Yeah, 59 days.
59 days.
I got there.
And where were you wounded?
That's kind of a loaded question.
Okay, let me do it a different way. What kind of wound was it?
It's a mortar round.
Mortar round. So it was shrapnel.
They targeted me I was on guard duty on the light line, and they targeted me because of my tracer rounds to where I was and everything. Fortunately, I only got myself wounded and everything. My partner that I was on duty with, on guard duty, he didn't get hurt.
So, he did not get hurt?
No. He was one that put bandages on me and stuff like this.
Where was the wound?
There was a mortar round, and the wound was through my legs.
My legs?
My right leg.
Multiple wounds or single?
More or less, major wound was one, was here and here.
Okay.
There was a scrape on the side of my cap, but it was not actually penetrated, or a piece of shrapnel.
Oh, it didn't penetrate?
No, it skipped.
But you had ones higher that did penetrate?
Yeah, that's the one on my side.
Okay.
The side, where it went through on the inside of the side, came out the back of my thigh.
But missed your bone?
Yeah. When they say $1 million wound, I'm a
Yeah.
classic example of the guy who got $1 million wound. Missed the bone, missed most of the minor artery.
Wow.
Missed most of the tendons, missed most of. So it was basically a relatively minor wound, although it was pretty big and stuff like this.
Large wound, but not as deadly as a lot of them.
No, and so it ended up the so-called $1 million wound that I could get back home to the States and everything.
So you were there 59 days, got hit,
right.
And you were probably back when?
I don't know, a couple of weeks out of the hospital for the first operation on the wound. And then after that it was flown back to the States and everything. And
where did they fly you back to?
Fort Riley, Kansas.
Okay. Hospital there?
Yeah, 3rd Army. Third Army Division or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
What happened then?
Well, I spent there for a couple of months rehabbing, wound healed and recovered and stuff like that and everything, and doing therapy and exercise to strengthen my leg back up and everything. I don't remember exactly how long I was there, but it was like a couple of months. You know, back then I was younger, so I healed faster and stuff. You know.
Did they then keep you in the service, or
I went back to active duty. That's when they stationed me in.
Let me stop you for a second. You were in the hospital for a couple of months.
Yeah, more or less.
Then they put you back on active duty right away?
I was in.
Or did you convalesce for a while?
Well, I was on active duty, but I was on limited.
Unlimited duty.
There was no running, jumping, no standing, or stuff like that and everything. That was for a couple of months or something like that.
This was still in Kansas at that time?
Yeah, and then they assigned me to Savannah, Georgia, on Army Airfield.
Army Airfield?
Yeah, Hunter Army Airfield.
Okay.
In Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
And so I spent the next 2 years there.
So you went back active duty, but you were on guard duty, or what was your job?
I was just, well, they still wanted me to act as a crew chief.
As a crew chief.
Right.
So
I had no experience.
There were back to Hueys were there.
Yep.
Okay, so you were crew chief for the next 2 years?
The Army is funny. I was trained to be a crew chief. I never actually got to be a crew chief.
Explain that.
I was assigned maintenance, and mostly maintenance and stuff like that. Technically, I serviced helicopters as they take off and training and stuff like this and everything. But
So your MOS was crew chief, your factual was maintenance.
yeah, more maintenance than anything else and everything. And at the Army Air Base and everything, they had more helicopters than they had crew chiefs.
Okay.
So I wasn't assigned to any one particular aircraft. I was assigned to
Multiple aircraft.
2 or 3, or
Floating around, if you will.
more or less. Yeah, I was never assigned one helicopter to be a crew chief. Yeah.
What was your rank at this time?
This Spec 4.
Spec 4?
Yeah.
So they advanced you in rank.
Well, eventually, yeah. I'm not sure the exact timeline on how soon I got achieved rank.
Okay.
I think the Spec 4 was probably attained while I was still in hospital recovering and stuff like this.
When you went to, after the hospital and went to this as crew chief,
Right.
now normally they have a hierarchy. They're all the same rank, but one person's in charge and so on. Where did you stand in that? Were you just one of the workers, or did you one of the supervisors? Or maybe I'm wrong.
One of the workers and everything. I was assigned limited duty because I
Still had that wound that you were dealing with.
still recovering from the wound and everything. So I was assigned delivery as a driver, delivery driver for the
parts and so on.
battalion supply and stuff like this.
Okay.
So I drove around the base and delivered parts,
Gotcha.
as required.
So you weren't doing full maintenance, you were doing delivery work.
I was doing full maintenance for about a couple of months.
Okay.
And then I never actually learned to do an intermediate inspection, and they assigned me to do an intermediate inspection.
What kind of inspection?
Intermediate.
Or intermediate,
It's
thank you.
like a sort of a in between a full inspection,
Uh-huh.
and
To make
But-
sure they were going to pass muster in case they wouldn't otherwise.
yeah. But I never actually learned to do that. Like I said, when I got to Vietnam, they took away the helicopters.
Oh, yeah.
So the training that I had in basic and MOS and stuff, I didn't really learn that much about the helicopters. I understood the basic of it, but
You weren't in Vietnam long enough to deal with it anyhow.
no. And I wasn't around the helicopters back then and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Now, back in the States,
back in the
you never
States,
went back to Vietnam.
No.
Okay, back in the States, and you're doing this job
Yeah.
of maintenance and driving parts around
Right.
as a Spec 4.
As a Spec 4.
So you didn't have, you were, for all intents and purposes, your own boss?
No, I had a sergeant and another soldier who was also worked the same thing,
Okay.
stuff like this.
Something I didn't ask you for people watching this, what is a Spec 4?
Oh, specialist. It's called specialist.
Okay, and what's the actual rank? Do you remember?
E4.
Okay. So
It's
an
equivalent,
E4.
it's equivalent to a corporal.
Thank you, that's what, I'm just clarifying
Yeah.
for people who might not know what a Spec 4 was.
That's a lot of stuff I haven't thought about in a long time.
Okay. Did you come out as a Spec 4? Out of the military?
No, I came out as a Spec 5.
Spec 5.
That's equivalent to a sergeant.
How long were you at that particular base, or did you do your entire?
I did the entire rest of my tour,
Okay.
and so I enjoyed it.
What do you think was the hardest part for the military lifestyle for you?
I'd say the pay,
Okay.
not much of anything else to do and everything like that.
Okay.
Drank too much and
What's that?
drank too much.
Drank too much?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spent too much time at the NCO club,
Okay.
stuff like that, and everything like that. Didn't have family down there, so everything like that.
Did you keep in contact with your family?
Yeah. For the most part, they were more or less in contact and everything. I'd go home on leave
Okay.
occasionally, stuff like that. But
Well, let me ask you another question. rank that you obtained to corporal's Spec 4, was it an advancement or just by rote? Did it just come along? Did you have to test out to it, or show that you could?
I don't recall ever testing out for it.
It
was given to me as a matter of
Elizabeth Becker, please call over 300. Elizabeth Becker, please call over 300.
Now, as far as, so it's just, it came along as time went on. How long were you in the military?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Anyway, I was advanced. Spec 4 was, I don't know exactly, at the time I don't remember that there was anything particular special about why I was Spec 4.
That's okay. What do you think the hardest part of being in the military was?
Adjusting to military life,
Okay.
which...
What do you mean by that?
Well, like in the Army, it's hurry up and wait.
The what?
Hurry up and wait.
Oh, yes.
Hurry up and wait. Just military life, and the fact that people tell you what to do, where to do it, when to do it,
Okay.
stuff like that and everything.
And you weren't high enough in rank to do that to others?
No, like I said, I achieved through due course and everything on a Spec 5 rating, which gave me the equivalence of a buck sergeant or sergeant.
Yeah, buck sergeant.
But with no real authority, command authority
Oh,
or
I
something
see.
like that. That's
You were a sergeant without any,
yeah, that's why they
responsibility.
That's why they call it spec.
yeah,
Specialist meaning.
gotcha.
So the Spec 5 rating, I achieved that simply as a matter of time and course and stuff like that.
Do you have any special people you remember from those times?
Oh,
Any of your officers or other men that you served with, or did you keep in contact with any of them?
no. I've never kept in contact with anybody I was in service with.
Okay.
The only time that I really had, where I was stationed someplace long enough to develop friends and everything was when I was stationed in Savannah, Georgia.
Well, let's back up for a moment. You said that you were a delivery driver mostly.
Yeah.
Walk me through a typical day.
An F1 pickup truck, F100 category, I think. Not F150, but F1, quarter ton stuff like that.
Quarter ton, 3/4 ton or half ton?
Quarter.
Quarter ton.
Yeah.
So a small pickup.
Yes, small pickup. I drive around the base in different places, everything. Mostly deliver parts to the airfield
Okay.
that they needed and stuff like this. And
Well, let's back up now. You start your day and
well, I was stationed. Oh, okay. I would report to my sergeant in a battalion supply.
and what?
Battalion supply.
Okay. Battalion
Sorry,
supply.
It's hard to talk with that.
That's all right.
Okay.
Oh, supply.
Battalion supply,
Okay.
which meant that I delivered the parts and stuff like this
Okay.
wherever they needed on the base. They told me to go to.
Okay.
So I would drive like I said, it's a quarter ton.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a half ton, but it's
I'm going to stop you for just a second.
Okay. So, anyhow, that's battalion supply is what I signed to. That's where I was at the whole time that I was in Savannah, Georgia.
So you picked up, you had the truck, then where did you go? You checked in with your sergeant, and
That's where I spent the next 2 years.
it's just hauling supplies.
Yeah,
And you never worked, you were called a crew chief, but never worked that way.
right.
Okay.
So,
Can you remember anything humorous or funny or anything that happened you want to share?
I fell off a truck.
You fell off a truck.
Yeah,
You want to share that one?
sure. One of the duties that they did occasionally was, as an auxiliary duty, was to ride ride in a fuel truck.
Okay.
and helicopters would to practice landings and takeoffs and stuff like that and everything out in the field. And so they'd have landing pads. And so we would park the truck, or the driver would park the truck, fuel truck, and then he would point it towards the inside of the field where the landing pads were. And he would come out and make a left turn and then make a right turn out to the landing strip and stuff like this. Well, funny thing was, I would ride on the sideboard and hold on to the door, and he would make that turn and everything. One time when he made that turn, he didn't latch the door.
You what?
He didn't latch the door.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so the door came open, and I went flying. Not like in Superman, where he jumps. Anyway, so the upshot of it was,
Not like the movies. You just fell down like a sack of oats.
I don't know if it was more like that. It was like I landed on my side, on the left side, and stuff like this. And I was concentrating more on keeping my head from smashing onto the pavement and stuff like this. So that's how I got the whiplash, why my neck is crooked. But I didn't report that as an injury or anything like that. So just a muscle strain, which I thought it was as a muscle strain. It wasn't until after I got out of the service and everything that people, and I started to notice it on my driver's license, that my head tilts this way. Unconsciously. I think I'm looking perfectly straight.
But you weren't.
Yeah, I got a lot of pictures and everything where my head is tilted like this, And that picture that they got of me, and that thing and everything shows my head cocked at an angle and stuff like this. I'm not aware of it. I went to a chiropractor some years later, and when I realized that my neck was off and stuff, and he said it had been so long, like 5 years, 10 years, that my muscles and neck and cartilage had all shifted to accommodate being offset slightly. So, and it would cause more harm to try and straighten my neck out, to the chiropractor. So just live with it, But it's been kind of awkward to sometimes in pictures and stuff like that. You see me, and I'm sitting there like this, and I'm not aware that I'm even doing it.
Well, through time you've adjusted to it.
I've had to. Anyway, but the Army never gave me any benefits, for that injury and everything, because it was never reported. You remember in the Army, if it's not broken, and it's not bleeding, you don't report it.
I hear you. Let's take a step backwards in a way. Besides being wounded in the leg, what was the worst time you had during that time?
I can't say anything that was really the worst time. The closest thing I could come was drinking too much at the NCO club. And, you would drink on credit for each month and everything. You could set debits and stuff like this. And at the end of the month, when you got paid, then you paid
It all went away.
You paid off the debits, whatever it is. Yeah. And there was 1 month where I spent so much time at the NCO club, I would drink and eat there, eat dinner, because it was cafeteria too. And, but it wasn't military supplies and everything. So, 1 month, at the end of the month when I paid off my chits, I had almost no money left on my pay. So I said, this isn't going to work very well. So I quit drinking and quit going to the NCO club and stuff like that.
Just because you didn't have any money if you did that.
I couldn't still go there, but I took almost all my pay to pay off the month.
Just as a side note, now I realize you probably got the Purple Heart.
Oh yeah. I had a lieutenant come in the hospital in
Pin on the
Saigon.
Purple Heart
I think we were in Saigon.
in Saigon?
Yeah. Never was really clear as to exactly where I was, but I'm pretty sure I was in Saigon. Field hospital and stuff like that and everything.
How long were you in country before they shipped you back with your wound? You said you got there 59 days. On the 59th day you were wounded.
Yeah.
How long after that were you
I don't recall.
rotated back? You don't, that's okay.
I don't recall exactly. Probably a week or 2 weeks after they referred to the leg and stuff like that, and shipped me back on a flight, in a plane and stuff. I don't remember the exact number of days and everything.
Well, let's go forward a little bit. So you are in the military, and then it's time to discharge. What happened then?
Basically, I was discharged in Savannah, Georgia, and given
Where?
Savannah, Georgia,
Thank you.
and given travel pay to come back to Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
This is
That's where your family was?
That's where my family was. That's where I enlisted from.
Okay.
And from that point on, technically I was in reserves,
Okay.
Army reserves for the next 3 years. But it's not the reserves like training, like this and everything. I didn't have to.
You trained others, or you just
I
had
didn't have
in
to do
reserves?
it.
You did nothing really?
Did nothing.
Okay.
But I
Did
was-
you ever marry?
Eventually, yeah, I married a girl up in Wyoming.
In Wyoming?
Yeah.
Or from Wyoming?
In Wyoming. Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay. How long were you married?
8 months.
So it didn't work out?
Yeah. Well, I asked her once, and after we were getting divorced and everything, why did she marry me? She said, well, at the time she thought maybe it would work out.
Okay. That was your only marriage?
No, that was the first one.
How many times were you married?
Twice.
Okay.
The second time was after I sold my house and quit my job in Cheyenne
Okay.
and moved back to Kansas City, Missouri, and ended up getting a job there. Or no. Well, I had a job
What kind of work were you
working
doing?
for a can company, a paint company.
Canning company?
Paint
Oh, painting.
company,
Thank you.
paint manufacturer.
Okay.
It was Cook's Paint in North Kansas City, Missouri. And I worked there for probably about a month or so and got laid off.
Oh,
And after a couple of months I was laid off and stuff like this. I just started getting unemployment and they technically called me back and everything. So I went back and I worked there I think another month and I was laid off again. So about that time I relocated to Camden, Missouri. I had an aunt and uncle down there and everything. They had a
to where?
Camden,
Okay.
Missouri. I had an aunt and uncle that had a small resort, there. So I rented a cabin from them and stuff like that, one of the cabins and stuff like that. Then when I got the call back to go back to work at the company where I was laid off from, I said, no thanks,
Now, were you married at this time?
no. The second time when I got married was 10 or 15 years after that.
Oh, wow.
Probably about 10 years.
And then how long were you married?
That time was about 2.5 years.
Okay.
I would say the marriage only lasted probably the first year. And then she was kind of tired of me, as I put it and everything. As long as I was working the evening shift and I was not under her foot and stuff like this in the evening, she tolerated me. She told me once that if I went on day shift, she'd be divorcing me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And sure enough, I went on day shift.
She divorced.
And she filed for divorce.
Let's go back to the military. Have you ever gotten any reunions or anything since then?
Not really. Like I said, I never stayed close to anybody. There are a couple of people that I made friends with, good friends and everything.
Okay. You're still in touch with them?
No, we never kept in touch.
Never kept in touch.
Yeah. Mostly when I got out of the service and everything, I tried to put the military life back.
So you never joined any veterans organizations? Or?
No, my brother did, which I guess the Navy guys do that a lot.
How do you think, no, it's kind of an obvious question in your case, excuse me, but how do you think the military service affected your life?
It matured me
Okay.
more, realizing that life can be, you can lose your life quickly. It sort of made me more cognizant of the fact that,
More what?
cognizant,
Okay.
aware of the fact that,
Yeah.
that you can die.
Yeah. Would you ever recommend military service to others?
Sure.
Okay.
If they're of the right temperament and for and stuff like this and everything. I don't think anything bad, particularly about the military.
Now remember, what we're doing here is going to be heard by future generations.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you would like to say to them? The children that may not even be born yet?
Just pay attention to your surroundings. Try to make intelligent decisions about what you're going to do and stuff like this.
Okay.
Like I said, the decision I made about using the ammo,
Yeah, use the right ammunition.
I was trying to be too smart for my own good. Also, as far as the maturing thing and the fact and everything was most of what happened caused me to realize that I'm not invulnerable, I'm not immortal,
Okay.
and that things could happen and everything. I could end up being killed or something like this. Fortunately, it never happened, but
Sure.
it just reminded me of my mortality.
Okay.
So, and some people have a lot of faith in the afterlife or the canon, God and heaven and stuff like this and everything. In my case, I don't.
You don't believe in the afterlife?
I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe that there is such a thing as heaven or hell or anything like that and everything. I think you're
One
born.
time through, you better enjoy
I
it.
think you're born, you live, and you die,
Okay.
just like animals and stuff like this. Whether or not there's a soul, I don't know. We're unique in the sense that we have intelligence and awareness and stuff, whereas animals are aware only of their existence as finite time and stuff like this. They don't think about how long they're going to live or how long, what they're going to do next year or something like this. They just worry about immediate time. That's one of the things we're unique about things. And a lot of people think that the afterlife, which is a way of saying I'm going to live forever. Not so much in this life, but I'm going to live forever in some other life.
Okay.
And I don't believe that there is an afterlife. I don't believe there is heaven and hell and stuff like that and everything. And because of that, I say I'm responsible for what I do now. So I have responsibility to behave in a manner that I feel comfortable with now, which means being responsible to people, caring for people as much as I can, and not causing any harm to anybody as much as possible.
Patrick, thank you very much.
So
I do appreciate your time and trouble here.
I do have one thing, a piece of advice and everything.
Certainly.
When you're in the military and everything in a combat situation, or you're not in a combat situation. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Okay.
People got hurt and everything. Shortly after I got to Vietnam and everything, we had a mortar attack. Well, I was zipped up in a sleeping bag, couldn't get the zipper open, undone and everything. So the whole time during the attack and everything, I'm trying to get out of my sleeping bag. Ended up rolling off to the floor. One of the other guys and everything in the barracks and everything was running to try and get to the exit. Ran smack into one of the support pillows posted in the barracks. Knocked him cold. So
Pay attention to what you're doing.
pay attention to what you're doing. You know, be aware of it. Other than that, it's like, just be careful.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah.